ultimately, the goal that you're trying to get to when you think about whether or not you want to add UGC to your product or your service or not is, how do we make people feel invested in the platform? How do we increase user engagement? How do we make them feel like citizens in your virtual world? How do we make them feel like, truly equity holders in the community that's being created? There are all kinds of academic studies in neuroscience, cognitive science, based in very, very scientific research using functional MRI techniques to determine, hey, the brain waves that are being triggered in people's brains when they interact with their avatar are pretty much the same as what's happening when they interact with people in real life. So if you project out what happens, and there's also another concept in cognitive psychology called neuroplasticity, right? And basically this concept is just the fact that the way we interact with media, the way we interact with communication, changes the way our brain is fundamentally wired. And so from an investment perspective, when I think about this, I think, wow, look at what kids are doing in Club Penguin. You guys talked about Gaia Online and Doppelganger. Wow, people are spending tons of time on this. The way that they're responding to input is going to be much different than the way I'm responding to input. And there's a whole generation of people being trained in a new way of thinking. And then the exciting thing to me is, hey, what are the investment opportunities in 5 to 10 years when all these people are now adults? It's going to be it's going to be the most powerful technology we have for quite some time into the future, right? So we can continue to replicate our environment in 3D graphics, but our brain is going to continue to outperform anything we can develop in terms of visualizing these fanciful environments or visualizing very rich, detailed ways of interacting with people. So I'm also very interested in zero barrier to entry environments. I think, so one analogy that I like to talk about is Procter & Gamble, right? They sell 1,000 different kinds of soap. Really, the soaps don't really differ that much in formulation, but they do an incredibly effective job at segment marketing and customer acquisition, meaning they have a brand, Dove, that's targeted towards a very specific demographic. They have Ivory, they have Irish Spring. I'm making this up. I don't really know if these are their brands, but they could be. But the point is they have a number of different brands, and all largely based on the same product that they're using to very effectively acquire customers cost efficiently. What I think we're doing a really bad job on in the virtual worlds environment is also using clients in a very targeted way to acquire customers, meaning the kind of client that a kid from the ages of 6 to 10 might be interested in is a different kind of client than someone who is 60 and older might be interested in. And I think when I talked earlier about the fact that I'm super excited about client agnostic environments is that I'm really interested in people who understand what the value, the key asset of their business is. The key asset of your business is not necessarily your graphic design. It could be, but the key asset of your business is the fact that you're providing a communications platform. You own the server-side synchronization of all these people interacting on your platform. You own all these, assets. Basically, the asset that you own is, on the server side, more or less. Even in Gaia Online, theoretically, to expand Gaia, I'd be like, there's no reason why you can't be the anime platform or the whatever platform it is across Facebook, MySpace, wherever people live online, right? That's basically the asset. So that's what I wanted to talk about in terms of client agnostic environments. Our industry today is whether or not we can band together to proactively address many of the legal issues that are going to present a cornucopia of problems in the near future. So if you assume that virtual goods is going to be a big business model, all sorts of legal issues arise around property rights, who owns the good, what legal right do you have in terms of access to the good after a service is discontinued, how do you govern for the transfer of goods between people, and then also, when there's business opportunity, there's a ton of fraud that becomes much more attractive to people, right? Because all of a sudden now there's an environment where I can create virtual goods or I can create virtual assets, and there's really no good legal framework to think about how we conduct business in this environment. So I actually think that part of the onus upon us, and what I like to see more at conferences like this, is let's have a conversation around what do we need to do as an industry to put down some commonly accepted EULA or framework for self-government so that more lawsuits don't happen reactively. A platform for moving your avatar, moving your environment around. I mean, it's a completely open platform based on a markup language, and the challenge is not necessarily, I mean, so they've created a great technology platform. The challenge is now how do you make that a consumer compelling experience, a compelling consumer experience, right? Because, you know, porting your avatar around to different environments is a really powerful concept, but you have to make that avatar emotionally relevant to people, so there has to be some kind of context. I really think it's a great investment opportunity, but I'm not necessarily bullish on it in the next 12 months.